Hey rockers, back yet again for another true rock and roll tale, and I've done some research on this, but I've also had some people I need to thank for helping me out with some of the information I was lacking. First of all, thanks to James Strevels in Peoria, Illinois. My brother, thank you so much for your help. Also want to thank Ben David. He provided some very valuable information about some of the band members at the gig I'm going to tell you about. And of course, Terrence Exile. He also provided information via social media. Thank you guys so much for helping me out. So tonight we're going to go back to the year 2011, but the story truly starts in 2010. Because in 2010, I was touring the country with a band called the Hollow Bodies. And we actually did a 12-state United States tour and playing all kinds of real cool places, man. But we ended up playing a gig in Los Angeles, California at a place called the Redwood. Now, the Redwood's a pretty infamous punk rock bar and really cool, a great place, which was on my bucket list of places to play. Now, I tell you what, man, getting to that gig and the gig itself is a whole nother story. But that night, after Bloody Mess on the Hollow Bodies played at the Redwood, I actually met Russell McKay. Now, those of you that don't know, Russell McKay is part of the Poor Kids. They're like a group of punk rockers in East LA that have a radio show called the Poor Kids Radio Show, and they have a whole slew of people around them. They promote shows, which they've actually promoted a show with me on the Hollow Bodies, which was awesome. I gotta say, shout out to Russell. But Russell McKay is actually Glenn Danzig's like road manager, life manager. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing and get the wrong tag on Russell, but he's a guy that's directly connected to Glenn Danzig. They were like this, at least the last I knew they still were. And he's the guy that when you see Danzig on stage, anyone running out to give Danzig a towel or take care of his microphone or handle stuff, pretty much anything for Glenn, it's Russ. I'm just telling you about the small stuff, but he's literally the go-between between a lot of people and Glenn Danzig. Well, after we played at the Redwood, Russell invited us back to his mansion in LA. It's like a 12-room mansion, 12 bedrooms. They have a radio show up in there, and we ended up partying and hanging out, and heard a lot of great Glenn Danzig stories. Well, flash forward to the year 2011, and Russ had told me, if you ever want to see Glenn, just reach out and I'll try to hook you up, man. And I thought, you mean like the hookup, the VIP? He said, absolutely. I said, oh yeah. Well, I found out that Glenn Danzig was going to be playing as part of the Legacy Tour, and that was going to include music from his solo career, Danzig, the Misfits, and Samhain was going to reunite, which was super big news. And at the time, the Misfits even reuniting in any shape or form was kind of big news, because they didn't start doing that stuff regularly until later, I do believe, with Jerry Only, who is not included on this particular show. But we're going back to the night of Halloween, Monday, October 31st, 2011. It's actually in Universal City, right outside of Los Angeles, California, at the Gibson Amphitheater. I reached out to Russell McKay and I said, man, I've got to pull a favor. Could you hook me up with that VIP for that show on Halloween for that Legacy Tour? He said, absolutely, man. So my friend at the time, and I haven't talked to her in a while. We're still friends. Sherry Snake Lady Rose, good friend of mine in LA. She and I decided to go to the show together, and we decked out, hung out in LA before the show, and of course we had full face makeup on for Halloween. I had my Germs shirt on with the blue Germs logo on the front, courtesy of Sherry Snake Lady Rose, and a pair of black pants with like white skulls all over them. And Sherry looked pretty damn cool too that night. So we went to the show and we had VIP, which means there was a private party before the show featuring members of the Misfits, Samhain, and of course Danzig's band. And Corrosion of Conformity was on the bill that night as well. So when we went to the before party, or the pre-show party, the before party, I just created a new party, the before party. Anyway, we went to the pre-party, and it was cool because there was a lot of people there that are notable LA people that I really had no clue who most of them were. I can't lie. But there was a lot of people there that were in the kind of who's who of LA rockers and punk people. It was cool. And I got to see Mike Dean, the bass player and vocalist for Corrosion of Conformity, a.k.a. COC. Got photos with Mike Dean, talked to him for a while. That was really cool. And of course, Doyle, Wolfgang, take two. Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein of the Misfits was there hanging out as well. Well, I kind of knew Doyle because he had been on my radio show more than a couple of times and has been since. And I kind of went up to Doyle and started talking. He remembered me, of course. The Church of Rock radio show, Sunday nights, KSKQ, 6 p.m. Pacific time, kskq.org. Doyle was hanging out with just his white base makeup on. He didn't have his eyes done yet. He didn't have his devil locked down or his clothes on, but he came out and he mingled for, quite a while, 10, 15 minutes, a half hour. He was just chilling out, man. Anybody could talk to Doyle, and it was nice to just have a chat with him and not be interviewing him for some radio show. But at the time, I brought a photo with me, and I thought maybe Russell can get Danzig to autograph this, because I highly doubt that Glenn Danzig is going to be hanging out at the pre-party, and he wasn't. But Russ came walking out, and I said, Russell, what's up, man? He actually hooked us up. It was great. Thank you again, Russell. I said, could you take this photo back and ask Glenn if he'll autograph it for me by chance? He's like, oh, he's right there, right around that door, but he's not coming out until his show. I said, okay, I understood. But he looks at the photo and he says, Glenn's not going to sign this. It was a particular photo of the Misfits, and at the time there was a lot of animosity in those camps. Jerry Only's Misfits, and then you had Danzig, who was part of the original Misfits. Of course, I believe Jerry did start that band, but I could be wrong. It could have been both of them. Don't come clawing me, guys, if I'm wrong about that tidbit. Just educate me in the comments, please. But yeah, I love the Misfits, love Samhain, love Danzig. And so we're at the pre-party. It's a lot of fun. We're mingling with Doyle, Mike Dean, all these cool people. It was really fun, man. But we couldn't wait for what we came to do, and that was to see the music. Now, of course, when we were there that night, I wanted to give you the lineup of the people that were in the band, because that was something I had to get some help with, because I didn't really have the information. Glenn Danzig on vocals, of course. Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein, guitar for the Misfits set and the Encore. Steve Zing on the bass. London May was there, of course, from Samhain. And Steve Zing from Samhain. And he played bass on the first part of the Samhain set, and he played drums on the second part of the Samhain set. Tommy Victor was the guitar player, which is Danzig's kind of main dude in the Danzig band. And Johnny Kelly, Danzig's main drummer, was the drummer, except for the second half of the Samhain set. Of course, I think that's all I needed to tell you about the pre-party, or do I say the before party? Yeah. What I want to get into now is the set list. The actual set list that night was not hard to get, but I could not find the one for Corrosion of Conformity. So I'm sure someone's going to find it now that I said that, but I did try. But I will say that that night, as far as Corrosion of Conformity is concerned, where's my notes? Damn it, Derek, get your SHIT together. Anyway, Mike Dean, Woody Weatherman, and Reed Mullen were the three members of Corrosion of Conformity. Of course, Woody Weatherman shreds on the guitar, man. That guy rocked that night. Just killer all over the place, just in your face. I have been a fan since the very first Animosity album in 1985, and that's primarily what they did that night. They did material from the Animosity album, and they also did material from the Anachrocity. I can't pronounce it. Oh my God, I'm not going to start this video over because I couldn't pronounce one word. That's just not going to happen. Here you go. Technocracy. Please, I've saved face in front of you guys. I embarrassed myself. I didn't edit it. Okay, so they did primarily music from those two albums from 85 and 87 respectively. They did a few new songs as well, but I gotta tell you, back in the day, I actually wrote to Reed Mullen, the drummer, who passed away sadly, January 27th, 2020 at the age of 53, but we were pen pals back in the day. He's the one that actually originally mailed me the copy of Animosity on vinyl, which was awesome. And then years later, we got to interview him on the Church of Rock radio show, and you can find that interview on my Church of Rock YouTube channel. It's called The Church of Rock, all one word. And if you guys could take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel, maybe like this video, leave a comment, and share. The set list that night, thank you, by the way. The set list that night started out with music from the overture of the Rebel Angels. And everyone was just packed in there like a sardine, man. The Gibson Amphitheater was killer. COC plays. They're just killer. They had the place thrashing. Everyone was ready for Danzig and company. Don't get me wrong, though. But COC was really powerful, and they really, really were awesome, man. I got to give it up. Reed Mullins' long hair was flowing. Mike Dean was up there turning bright red with his, I think he had his beard going on with his short hair playing bass. And like I say, Woody Weatherman is a force to be reckoned with. So COC, thumbs up. Sorry I don't have the set list. Back into the Danzig Legacy set list. After the overture of the Rebel Angels, they went into Skin Carver, then Hammer of the Gods. The audience was completely into this, man. I have never seen a show where there was more sing-alongs in my life, I don't think. Maybe. Hammer of the Gods and Rebel Spirits was up next on the set list for Legacy Tour. This is the Danzig set, right? This whole set is Danzig material. It was about 40 minutes long. Then they went into my favorite song by Danzig, and yeah, of course, it's like the radio hit, but it still rules with one of the best riffs in rock and roll, and I'm talking about Twist of Cain. Leave a comment below if you agree that Twist of Cain absolutely rules, you guys. After Twist of Cain, which everyone was singing along to, Her Black Wings. I love the title of that song. Then into The Devil's Plaything, another great title by Glenn Danzig. Then they went into How the Gods Kill. You got to give it to the guy for great song title imagery, right? It's like the Dungeons and Dragons of rock and roll, kinda. Dirty Black Summer into It's Coming Down. And that was the entire 40-minute Danzig set for the Legacy Tour. Check it out, man. After that, man, they had this big, they had these things on stage that were like oval shaped, real big oval shapes with the big Samhain skull and the big logo. Really crazy on either side of the stage. I think they were like in red lights, really menacing. But they got rid of that and they ended up dropping whatever banner or canvas they had, and the Samhain banner went up. And I know there's another way to pronounce Samhain, but I'm not going to go ahead and try to pronounce it and keep screwing it up. So I'm just going to say Samhain. But you can just go right on Google and say, how do you pronounce Samhain? And it'll give you the actual real pronunciation. After the Samhain banner was up, Glenn Danzig appeared on stage with like a bare chest with a leather bondage mask with full chrome devil horns. It was a sight to be seen, my friends. It was crazy, but you know what? This Samhain reunion was a very rare reformation indeed. Just ask my friend Jimmy Streevels. Now, one thing that was missing was Eerie Von, and of course Damien wasn't there, but Eerie Von was sadly missed. Of course, they did all the music from 1983 to 87. It was a 25-minute set list. They went into Initium and then Samhain, into All Murder, All Guts, All Fun. What a great song, man. Horror Biz was next, which was the revamping of the original Misfits Horror Business, Too Much Horror Business. It was pretty intense. And then after that song, they were experiencing such technical difficulties that night. It was real kind of muddy sounding, and Glenn was slightly irritated, you could tell. But he did his best, and it was awesome. No complaints here about Glenn or his voice or anything, but he was irritated. And he actually said after Horror Biz, he said, I need a knife, because it's got that chorus, you know, I'll put a, you know what, right in you. He said, I need a knife. And he said, he started making jokes about cutting people and stuff, but he really did get a knife from somebody in the audience. And they had the guy, Rhodey or somebody, had to talk the kid into giving his knife up, assuring him that Glenn wasn't going to stab anybody or anything crazy. And he basically, Glenn took that weapon and gave it to one of the technicians who was doing something. I don't know what was going on. It might be his way of telling him to fix something. I don't know. It was pretty intense. But after Horror Biz, they went into Unholy Passion, another really awesome and beloved Samhain song. Then Let the Day Begin, another great title. Then they went into To Walk the Night, and finally into Mother of Mercy. Now, the crowd was going nuts during Samhain, let me tell you. It was great seeing London. It was great seeing Steve Zing. It was great seeing those guys do that stuff. And now if you look on this channel under the video section, there's a story that I did about seeing Glenn and Samhain in Chicago. I think it was 84, 85, something like that. I think 84 or 85, one of the two. But that's on there, and I hope you'll check it out. And I hope you'll subscribe, guys. Okay, Here's what you've been waiting for. What did they do during that Misfits set? Well, Doyle was up there, and man, let me tell you, he was shirtless. He had on his armbands with the big skulls. He was completely buff, like almost like a porn star, but not in a bad way. I'm just saying, he was like just like this porn star rock and roll cartoon caricature. He was so badass, and he is a legend. I love Doyle, and he had that big devil lock, and he had his full face makeup on, and it was just pretty cool, man. Glenn was up there with this real tight black shirt on with his big, like almost Samhain, like skull belt buckle, his black jeans. He was menacing, man. He was prowling the stage back and forth, and I got some good quotes. As soon as I tell you the end of this Misfit set, I've got some good quotes I saved from what Glenn said on stage that night. So the Misfits, they're playing. Of course, it's not, Jerry Only's not there and whatever, but it was cool. And Death Comes Ripping from Earth AD was what they opened up with, which was really surprising for me and really cool. These guys played a 22-minute set, by the way, as the Misfits. Vampira was next. God, I want to sing it, but I won't. Vampira! Bullet. What a crowd favorite and a Misfits classic from the old days. These guys played stuff from like 77 to 83 during this set. Glenn told the story about being banned from Texas because that song being written about John F. Kennedy and that whole thing that happened with him being taken out. Of course, if you look at the lyrics to Bullet by the Misfits online, you might get a clearer picture, but Glenn was telling about how that song caused him and the Misfits to be banned from Texas, and that's a whole nother story, my friends. After Bullet, they did I Turned Into a Martian. Whoa, I couldn't even recall my name. I think that's the words. Then Night of the Living Dead. God, what a great set they were into. Halloween was next, and it was so great because it was Halloween of 2011. It's a night I'll never forget for sure. After they did Halloween, which, by the way, I can't emphasize enough how much people were singing along. It was like the whole crowd was part of the band. It was like everyone was on backing vocals that night. You can name all the guys in the band and then put your own name on there as a backing vocalist. That's how loud it was. Last song of the night was Astro Zombies Into Last Caress. Those songs are just such classics, man. Now, do you think they did an encore? They did. They did 2 encores. As a matter of fact, I had to turn my notes over sideways. Bringer of Death was the first song. They did a 15-minute Danzig solo material encore. Bringer of Death Into Not of This World, which is another title that I like. And then, of course, they closed it out with Mother, the big radio hit by Danzig, which, to be honest with you, when I was doing professional radio like 6 days a week for a living for years, I really got tired of the fact that that's the only Danzig song we ever played. Having been a fan of his entire catalog, I kept thinking, this sucks. Now, they would let us play Twist of Cain once in a while, but yeah, that wasn't fair. That's just how corporate radio works, and I'm glad that I'm in community radio today. After that first encore of Danzig material, they made the crowd earn it, that we finally did by making a lot of noise and, screaming and yelling. The whole crowd had been thrashing throughout this whole thing. It was a very intense crowd in Los Angeles with around 7,000 people. It was packed to the gills and way over capacity. No way it wasn't. Also, last song they did was Skulls. Yep. Another awesome song by the Misfits, which I believe was on the Walk Among Us album. I do believe so. I want your skull. Oh, I need your skull. Okay, I took some notes, man. Danzig did a lot of punching in the air that night. Danzig threw up the 2-fisted devil horns. Danzig wished us all a happy Halloween at one point at the end of the show. That was cool. Getting wished happy Halloween. It was like next best thing to trick-or-treating, my friends. He was drinking water the whole time, trying to stay hydrated, and it was almost like he was baptizing the crowd. He kept walking around sprinkling water from half-empty water bottles throughout the performance. You can see a lot of this footage, by the way, on YouTube, not on my channel, but there's a lot of YouTube channels that have footage from this very night. A lot of them are just clips or maybe 4 or 5 minute clips, but it's really cool to go there and see some of that footage. At the very end of the show, Glenn was extremely grateful. He was bowing. He did this whole thing over his heart. You could tell that he was really into it, man, and you could tell that he appreciates his fans. That's for sure. I'm not going to get into what I was going to say, but here's another quote. Here's another direct quote that night that was pretty cool. From day one, From the Misfits up to Danzig. I've written songs not just for you, but not just for me, but for you. So you could rock your nuts off. Rock your nuts off, guys. Woohoo! Girls, how about you? And rock your nuts off too, huh? Okay, that was just a joke, by the way. Please don't come at me. I'm not against anything. And here's another quote. People said that punk rock would never last 6 months. Well, look at you, MFers. That was a good one, man. Yeah, he was acknowledging, you know, he said so many things on stage that I could have quoted, but I'm not going to sit here and try to paraphrase. Those are things that were definitely things he said that night, though. The fans were thrashing. The fans were singing along. The fans were very happy to hear their hero. As far as the band, they sounded great. The sound overall was muddy, but it's no fault of the band. They were all talented. It was a kick-ass show, man. And I gotta say, having VIP for that was definitely a very special occasion. Hanging out in LA at all is always a kind of a special occasion because you never know what you're going to have happen in LA. It's truly not the city of angels. Hey, man, I'll be back as soon as I can. Thanks for being here, you guys. Please subscribe, and you can order a copy of my new Dark Days Unfazed album if you're interested on vinyl or CD by hitting me up in the email below. Thanks so much for being here at Bloody F Mess Official. Rock and roll!